And we're back for Animation Pilgrimage. We watched one of my favorite movies that I've been wanting to talk about and why we started this project.
Was that supposed to be some sort of jingle?
No, but I'm just excited.
Okay. Yeah, welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage. We watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
The Seven Dwarfs.
Here it is. The first movie most people think about when you think about the first animated movie ever.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is reasonable because it's the first traditionally animated film.
That hasn't been lost.
Yes.
That hasn't been lost is of appropriate length, I think, and was done in Hollywood, which I know that's a shitty way to, like, qualify what makes it the first movie or not, but it being a part of, like, Hollywood is a big part of that.
Yeah, and it is readily available to find
Yeah.
everywhere. Because it's Walt Disney, and they want to make sure their movies get out there, even if you're still paying $30 for them.
Yeah. For an 80-year-old movie that's coming out for the 100th time.
But you know what? It's worth it.
Before we get into this, I just want to mention the DVD that I have of Snow White is one of those, it's like platinum edition. I don't know if that means anything now because I feel like there's been like 500 platinum editions of their movies
Gold
to
edition,
come out.
Diamond edition.
Gold editions were like the really shitty editions. From what I can tell, gold editions would just be like, here's a DVD, basic ass menu, maybe your bonus features will have some making of the movie that was filmed in the 90s when they were doing all this promo ad stuff on Disney Channel everywhere, and then the movie and like a few setup options, and that's it. But no, this one was a platinum edition for Snow White. It was like 2-disc DVD, but it's one of those early DVDs where like the menu screens are all these like horrible CG camera zooms that take forever to get to your selections, and like the announcers will never, or like the people in the menus will never stop talking. In this case, it's the Magic Mirror who's like
going through every single option, like, click this button to watch the film in all of its entirety and originality. Or you can click the next button to go to a specific scene in the film so you can see all of your favorite parts. Or,
yeah, like he elaborates on every little part.
Click this button so that you can watch Snow White in many different ways.
Yeah,
it's
for
just
like
a setup. It's like, I mean, technically, yeah.
Yeah, and the last one is what really gets me. They have a special feature on my version where it's guided tours, where they literally have, I think, someone from the Disney Channel, and I know like Roy E. Disney and Michael Eisner are all over this thing, because this is right when they were having their big old feud at Disney, so they were putting their faces everywhere. But it's this guided tour that will literally have somebody come out and take you through all of the bonus features and be like, now we're gonna watch blah blah blah, and this is a blah 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 blah, and then they'll take you to the next thing. It's so bizarre.
I mean, you know how they have the thing, or at least they did, is like, this is equipped with Disney's Fast Play.
God, I hate Fast Play.
Oh yeah, it sucks. Imagine that, except it's just an option on the menu.
And it's a guy. It's like it's a person actually taking you through a tour on the bonus features and everything.
But anyways, let's stop talking about the DVD menus. Let's talk about the movie.
Well, we gotta build up anticipation for the movie, you know? Like, we gotta talk about a whole bunch of pointless shit first.
Oh, is that how reviewers get people to watch their episodes for really long?
Oh, maybe.
Oh. No, I just want to talk about the film.
Yes. Anyway, why don't you start? Because I'm going to have a lot to say.
Okay, so I guess I can do that. Yeah, so it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and for like all 2 people that haven't seen this film, I would assume.
I think it's a surprisingly larger amount than you would think.
Really? I guess I grew up with this film. This is one of those films I watched 5 billion times as a child.
I maybe watched this once as a kid.
What?
Yeah. Because my family did not like this movie.
Well, that's a damn shame.
They didn't like most of early Disney movies, now that I think about it. Like, Shiloh hated Pinocchio and Dumbo. And no one was really interested in Fantasia.
Oh. But no. I grew up in a family with, like, majority girls, so,
Princess movies.
Princess movies. We watched the Cinderella VHS that we had so much that the front flap fell off. That's how many times we watched it. But yeah, so I've watched this movie loads of times. I mean, it wasn't like one of the top movies we watched all the time, but yeah, It's like I've seen it a significant amount. It's the story of Snow White, which is pretty straightforward.
But with some very important changes that, I don't know, this movie is so easy to take for granted because it just does so many things right that it's easy to take them for granted. But like the story of Snow White, they changed quite a few different little things. Like one of the best changes I think that they make is the fact that in the traditional fairy tale, the hag is supposed to... In the traditional fairy tale, they have the hag come to Snow White's cottage 3 times. Like 3 different times over 3 different days.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, each time she tries to kill Snow White, and each time Snow White barely escapes and then lets her into the house again the next day. And the Disney team were just like, yeah, no, that's dumb. We're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's like they took out stuff that made Snow White a worse and more unrelatable character.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a brief overview of just the plot for the people that haven't seen this, but seriously, go see it if you haven't.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, you'll be able to find it everywhere. Mm-hmm. The plot for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White is a princess. Her mom is the queen. She's evil.
Her stepmom.
Stepmom, of course.
Yeah.
Is evil and crazy.
I mean, that's just how fairy tales work.
Yeah, evil and crazy and wants to be the most beautiful person in the world, but Snow White is pretty. So she's like, all right, huntsman, take her out to the woods and axe her. And the dude's like, I can't. She's so innocent and pure. Run away. Go hide in the woods somewhere. So she does, and then she eventually finds the cottage of the 7 dwarves, and then she wins them over, and they live together for a very short period of time, as in like one night.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this whole story
takes place in like 2 days.
Yeah. And then the next day...
If you don't count the months after she died.
Yeah. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
It's like, so then the witch comes... Or the evil queen disguises herself as a witch, because she is a witch, whatever. Old hag, and feeds her a poison apple, which kills her, except if she...
Sleeping death.
Sleeping death, yes. True love's kiss will wake her back up again. And the dwarves chase the hag off, and she falls off a cliff. Divine judgment from God!
How could you have killed something so pure and innocent?
Lightning bolt. But yeah, so then they're sad, and then the prince hears about this dead, really beautiful chick in this casket, so he comes over and gives her a mournful kiss, and she wakes back up. And
yeah, happily ever after.
Very simple story. But holy crap. I know you're going to go into this a lot, but the Disney team had quite the challenge ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because no one had tried to do this before, in America at least. Mm-hmm. No one had tried to make a full-length cartoon, as they referred to them back then. And everyone laughed at them and was like, okay, we need to get people invested so they don't just walk out.
Now, it's funny you say the whole people laugh at them thing. That is actually more so of... You know how I've been listening to that biography of Walt?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how Walt tends to elaborate stories a bit?
Oh, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So the whole Disney's Folly thing was actually something kind of created by Walt, because he wanted to build up his own, like, yes, we've done it kind of feeling.
Of course.
Of course. But in truth, you know, yeah, sure, there were a couple of people who were like, yeah, no, you can't, like, this is crazy. No one's gonna want to sit through a full movie-length cartoon. But a lot of people on the inside of Hollywood were actually really supportive and really were like, well, yeah, why haven't you done this yet? Like, do it.
Do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Go under and
Yeah.
die of stress.
Like I said, what's the worst that could happen?
Now, a lot of things wrong could have happened. Like, yet again, it's so easy to take this movie for granted because it just does so many things right. And it does them right in such a, like, oh, of course, like, why wouldn't you do it this way? But, like, things like the color palette of the movie were things that were obsessively worked over and worked over and worked over to try and make sure
to work.
Yeah, to make sure that the movie wasn't too bright and wouldn't hurt the audience's eyes, and they purposely chose an art direction that mirrored like a Grimm's fairy tale storybook. And they had, oh gosh, I can't remember his name now, but they had a German artist come in who was like there, did a lot of the concept drawings and stuff.
Darn, Germans are all over these early films. How dare they be creative?
And we saw when we were doing the early animations video how hard humans were to draw.
Oh yeah, they're always wibbly.
Yeah, and so the way they had to get around that was use the rotoscope, which Walt really did not want to do, but he also demanded that they do it because it was the only way they could get
that
Snow White to look good.
Yeah, only way to make her look
and the
like
prince.
a real person. And the
queen.
Prince. Yeah.
But, and I will say that as far as rotoscoping goes, like you could tell it's rotoscoped.
Yeah.
But I do think Snow White looks better than some of the other rotoscopes we've seen prior to this.
Yes.
She doesn't look...
The dancing walrus?
Yeah.
You don't think that looks better than Snow White?
I'm just saying that I feel like... And some scenes are better than others. Some scenes, it's like, yes, this was rotoscoped, but this still has a feeling of weight to it, which usually is a big problem in rotoscope. And then there are other scenes where it's like, no, this doesn't work as well, but...
She's kind of detached from the scene a little bit. I noticed that this time watching it because, I mean, I haven't watched it in...
A while.
Quite a while, and like watching it this time, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, I know she's rotoscoped, and she doesn't quite fit in with all the other like cartoon elements that are going on around her.
Original concept drawings, and I might have these posted around our video, but original concept drawings had Snow White, so she was more... So she fit the art direction of the rest of the movie. She looked more like in the style of the Dwarves.
Okay.
And obviously they just couldn't keep to that because they had to use the rotoscope to accomplish this. Which is a shame because I think the art direction in this movie is really good, but also like
not perfect
because they have to
try to shove rotoscope characters into scenes with super cartoony dwarves.
Yeah.
And not lumpy deers anymore.
Yeah. Although, speaking of the dwarves and the animals, one thing I always notice about this movie is just how much is on screen.
Holy
all
crap.
the time.
I didn't even think about it, but it's like, yeah, this is a really early film, and there are like 15 to 30 animals moving around the screen that all have to be watched and carefully moved about, because there's a couple of scenes that, yeah, they can just like loop and reuse the same rabbit a few times, but more
even
often
still,
than that,
they have to reuse, like, they have to redo new cells and stuff for those.
and they like move them around. It's like, oh my god, it's like everything is very meticulously done. It's like there's some insane scenes of like them running across the screen or like entering the house and just like 500 animals. It's like, this is insane.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't just like, alright, we just barely skimmed by to make a movie that was appropriate length to show as a, like, full-length feature film. No,
they went balls to the walls.
This is balls to the wall, animation everywhere. When we were just started the movie, I was like, challenge for you. Try and find a shot that is not using the multiplane camera in this movie. There are very few.
Yeah.
Like, just, like, this movie has better cinematography and just, like, using the space of your shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it does this better than some of the recent movies we've seen.
Yeah, which is a...
In general,
Not
this movie
good.
is better than some of the recent movies we've seen.
Yeah, it's like, animation-wise, just animation-wise, not necessarily going into plot or characters or anything like that. Animation-wise, I would say that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is better than all of but, like, maybe 2 movies we've seen this year.
No, this is better than everything we've seen this year.
Better than everything?
Yeah, I mean, what are we... Captain Underpants is, like, the best movie we saw this year, and I was lukewarm on it.
That's true. That's true.
I love this movie. There's just so much to talk about.
What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the story? Do you want to talk about the animation, the struggles that went therein? What do you want to dive into? This is probably going to be a bit of a longer episode.
Yeah, because I have feelings, guys. I have feelings about this movie. And I feel like this movie gets taken for granted so often and people don't appreciate it as much as they should.
Something I want to bring up right away.
Yes.
That, because Snow White did it, it is now a trope, and we can make fun of it, except miss the point entirely.
Are we going to talk about the princess thing?
Yeah, the princess thing.
Let's talk about the princess thing.
The princess thing, where animals just flock to them, and they can sing to summon them, and everything is good and dandy. No, that's not actually what happens at all in this film. It's like, Snow White is an innocent and pure child. Mm-hmm. And that is why the animals like her, care for her, and help her out. It's not because she's a fucking princess. Mm-hmm. She doesn't sing to summon animals. If anything, the animals are the ones that encourage her to sing to make herself feel better.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. God damn it.
I hate the recent, and it's not even a recent pop culture trend. Like, this has been around for a really long time. Mm-hmm. But this like, ha, wow, we're so clever because we're tackling the princess thing. Like, look at us, we made a joke about princesses. Ha, I'm so clever, hand me my paycheck. I'm like, fuck you. It's like, that's not what this is about. Like, if you actually watched these movies, it's like, yes, Snow White, if you're not in the mood for it, it can be tooth-achingly whimsical and sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the first half hour. But the Disney team was aware of this, and that is why after you have like this big long segment with Snow White and it's all very whimsical, X the trying to get murdered and
Scary wood
scene. That's why after that they cut to the dwarves and they introduce Grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And Grumpy is so important to this movie.
You don't even know.
You don't even know.
You don't even know how important Grumpy is and how he is the quintessential most important character in the entire film for audiences.
Yes, because Grumpy is there to represent, not to represent, but like to be...
Empathize with.
Yeah, to empathize with people in the audience who weren't buying into the story. And the Disney team purposely wrote Grumpy in like this to empathize with people who weren't getting into the story and hopefully bring them in. Because Grumpy has a fantastic character arc in this movie. He starts off, he's a woman-hating, just bad-tempered dwarf. And
he's having none of this shit.
Yeah, he doesn't want Snow White in his house. He doesn't want Snow White in his life. Just get her out. She's gonna get them all killed. She's probably a witch. Burn her. And as the film progresses, you slowly see that Snow White is just so charming that he can't help but care about her.
Mm-hmm.
And
then by the end of the film,
he's the dwarf that has, like, the biggest breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the most emotional breakdown.
It's like
when Snow White is killed.
It's like she's dead and, yeah, all the dwarves are crying and stuff. And, yeah, it's sad. But all of them liked her. Mm-hmm. And then there's Grumpy.
And, goddamn, that animation makes me emotional every time I see it.
Yeah, I teared up.
It's so good. But it's this animation of just Grumpy, and he
starts crying, but then he hides his face.
He hides his face because he can't show his tears, and it's just so sad. This film is like over 80 years old, and it's still
one of the absolute best animated films of all time, and it's one of the absolute first.
And that was another thing, is that, the Disney team just weren't sure if they could get the audience to
care about
animated drawings. Yeah, it's like, how, is the audience just going to think this is silly? Is suspension of disbelief not going to be enough? Are they not going to
relate to these as actual human beings or characters? Mm-hmm. It's like, that's a difficult thing to do.
Well, and I think one of the best ways they nail this earlier on in the movie is the scene with the huntsman.
Mm-hmm.
Is everything, the way this is shot, it's just like I can totally feel what the animators were feeling here, where it's like, you have this huntsman creeping up on Snow White, and if the audience isn't invested in these drawings, this was going to be an absolute failure. But they had to risk everything on making sure that the audience
felt something.
Felt this.
It's like, felt the urgency of, oh no, she's gonna die.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, what if the audience doesn't care if Snow White dies?
Yeah, if they don't care if Snow White dies, then, the whole movie's a flop and there's nothing they could do.
Yeah, but...
They had to get them invested. This is very important.
But they have Snow White, she's doing a very kind thing. She's helping this baby bird. And the way it's shot, so she's, like, trapped by this rock. Mm-hmm. That she's in front of, and then there's forest all around her, and it's the huntsman, and he's looking around to make sure nobody's there, and then you see his shadow creep up behind her
with the knife
poised.
Yeah,
and then just the like his shaking of his hand as he knows he has to do this, and then he can't. Like,
Oh, man. And one other really impressive thing about this movie is, like, they need to get the audience invested in this story as quick as humanly possible, because if they take too long, audience is going to get bored, they're going to leave. Mm-hmm. So how do they do this? They set up everything real fast. They have a quick song with her figuring out who her love is.
And I don't want to interrupt you here, but I just want to say something. I am always impressed with this movie about how it doesn't spend the first 10, 20 minutes telling jokes like a lot of animated films do today. Like, a lot of animated films today,
You're like, haha, joke, 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 haha, joke,
spend the
joke,
first
joke, haha,
30
joke,
minutes.
joke, joke. Oh, let's actually kind of get a bit of a plot going now.
Right. They'll spend a lot of time warming the audience
characters.
up to the characters in the story by just being funny. Whereas this film takes itself serious right away.
No, it's
and
like plot, 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 plot. And then 30 minutes in, we get to the cabin and things slow down
considerably.
a lot.
Yeah.
But it never feels like it's slowed down too much.
Yeah,
It just spends time with Snow White and the dwarfs. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
That's fine. When they do slow it down, you know, you are in the cabin, it is important that they slow down there, because it's very important that we establish Snow White's connection with the dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
And it can feel a little sluggish going through it. Like, it is pretty slow.
There's a few scenes that they could have, like,
could have cut just a bit.
Or just sped up situations a little bit.
That whole segment, or the whole second act, used to be a lot longer, because there used to be a whole other scene of the dwarves eating the soup. And they sang the soup song.
Oh, yeah. But then they cut that.
They cut that, but most of the animation was already done on it.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a big contentious point with Walt and the animators. And it was a scene that Ward Kimball had animated. And Ward Kimball almost left the studio after that scene got cut.
Because he was the lead animator on all the dwarves, wasn't he?
No.
No?
No.
No.
He was a fairly young guy at that point. He's one of Disney's 9 old men, and so he had come in to work on that movie. But he had animated most of the soup scene.
Okay.
And
yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty devastating.
And basically the only reason he didn't leave was because Walt was like, "Hey, Ward, we have this other project we're working on, Pinocchio, and one of the lead characters is this cricket that we think you'd be perfect for." So
Germany cricket!
So he moved Ward on to Pinocchio, and that's why Ward stayed.
Huh.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Neat. I can't wait to watch that movie in, like, not actually that long. There aren't a whole lot of films between here and there.
I think we have one other movie between this and Pinocchio.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching a lot of Disney movies here.
Right at the beginning?
Right at the beginning, because there's just not a whole lot of animated films being done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few here and there.
And plus it's the Depression, and plus right after the Depression we have the war.
Yeah, and then during the war, we're going to get a lot of really wishy-washy films, even from Disney.
Yeah.
And then after the war is over, then things start to pick up again.
A lot.
A lot. And then we're going to slow down and actually spend more than 2 or 3 movies in a year.
Yeah. But speaking of the Depression, Disney has said multiple times, it's like, thank God for the Depression, because we got some of our best artists this way. It's like, essentially, because Disney was the only one of the few studios that wasn't hit very hard by the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just kept investing in their own company rather than in stocks and such.
Yeah.
They made it through the Depression just fine, and they were able to hire all these artists for fairly cheap, because it was the Depression. And, you know, all of the 9 old men were hired in the studio during the production of Snow White.
Wow.
And because I don't want to leave them hung out to dry, we have the people who were there before Snow White, too. And I want to mention their names because I think they're very important. We've got Bill Titla. He was... And these are kind of all the old guards who ended up teaching the 9 old men what they knew.
And I guess for people that aren't super aware, the 9 old men are the 9 animators that stuck with Disney all throughout
Basically his career.
All of his career, and for a while afterwards. And I mean, they eventually all retired and petered out, but they are the design and aesthetic of all of those films. They were the lead animators on all of your favorite characters up through like the 60s and all of that. It's like they were the people that made the Disney films.
Yeah. And we will be talking about them a lot, so get used to me talking about the 9 old men. And I'll go over their names here pretty soon, too. But I want to talk about the old guard real quick, because they kind of get a little forgotten, because they aren't the 9 old men. But we have Bill Titla, and Bill Titla was largely responsible for making sure Snow White looked the way she did. He was the one who was able to... He came over from Fleischer Studios because he was really well known for doing Betty Boop. And Disney wanted him on their team to help do Snow White because he was like one of the only animators who knew how to keep drawings really, really consistent. So stuff like the bow on the top of her head and helping place the blush
face
on, and keeping her face in check and like the blush on her cheeks, which, by the way, fun little fact here, the blush on Snow White's cheeks was actually done by all the ink and paint women who put physical, actual makeup on Snow White.
On every single frame.
On every single cell.
That's insane.
And we've got Joe Grant. We've got Ham Lusk, Norm Ferguson, Art Babbitt. Art Babbitt's all over early Disney stuff. I mentioned in the early animations film that I thought Milt Cole did the Goofy walk, and it was actually Art Babbitt.
Oh, okay.
So and I corrected that in the video, but I just wanted to say it again here. So you have Art Babbitt to thank for that beautiful Goofy walk.
Do, 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 do.
Oh, the world owes me a living. Bill Sharpstein, Grim Natwick. Oh, I think it's Grim Natwick who is responsible for a lot of the art direction and like the background design and stuff like that. But I made sure to write his name.
His name is Grim, so
it's perfect. And then the biggest one I want to talk about is Freddie Moore. And
I recognize that name.
Yes, and we'll be talking about him more.
Get out.
And in general, when we talk about Pinocchio and Fantasia, especially, Freddie Moore is Disney. Like, when you think of the Disney art style, you're thinking of Freddie Moore's work.
Okay.
And I'll show some pictures of some of his stuff here. But, like,
he invented the style.
That appealing, childlike face that you see in drawings like, you know, like Pinocchio's face shape. Or think of the centaurs in Fantasia, or the mermaids in Peter Pan.
Okay.
Like, all those are Freddie Moore. And Freddie Moore's just... When Freddie Moore joined the company, Disney immediately saw the appeal of his drawings, and pretty soon everybody was just trying to emulate his style. Yeah.
Do that.
Do that.
He's got it. By Jove, he's got it.
Yeah. And it kind of surprises me that Freddie Moore isn't one of the 9 old men. But he's not. He's not, but he's very, very crucial in the look of Disney.
Disney.
So, and then we have the new guard, or the 9 old men who were coming into the spotlight when this film was being made.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many of the 9 old men can you name?
We're
playing a fun game here.
Shit, you're putting me on the spot. Milt Call.
Yes. Milt Call's a good one to start off with, so...
Milt Call. Shit.
I say these names all the time.
Frank and Ollie.
Yep.
Frank and Ollie.
Do you remember their last names? Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston.
Yes.
I'll give that to you.
It's like I remembered that those two were like best friends for a really long time, and I can't remember.
They're adorable. There's a great little documentary about them. And it's just them being friends and honestly being really goofy.
After they've
retired. Yeah. And of course we have Frank and Ollie to thank for the book The Illusion of Life, which is like...
one of the books to go to when you want to know how done do animation.
Yeah. I mean, it talks so more about Disney animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Animator's Survival Guide is just good for like basic animation, but The Illusion of Life is also a fantastic book.
Okay.
So you have 3.
Past those 3, I don't know if I can say the names of any of them, but as you list them off here, I'll probably be like, yes, I recognize that name.
Well, I was talking about one earlier.
You were, weren't you?
Uh-huh. He went to work on Jiminy Cricket.
God damn it, what was his name? I'm really bad with names, y'all, just so you know.
Yeah, he's...
I am horrendous with names.
He very often calls me names that are not Tennille.
I don't know what you're talking about, Erica.
So, the person I was talking about earlier was Ward Kimball.
Ward Kimball. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's 4 of them?
4 of them.
What are the other 3? Sorry. 5.
7 old men.
I don't know. 7 seems like a better number than 9. So
There's 9 of them.
Okay. Who are the other 5 then? God, I did really bad.
There's Mark Davis.
I recognize that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. John Lansbury. He's lesser known.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily recognize him.
You'd recognize his work by he did the Italian chefs in Lady and the Tramp.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this guy's name so much. Wolfgang Reitherman.
That is a badass name.
Wolfgang. That's so cool. But he often goes by Wooly, so Wooly Reitherman. And
I recognize Wooly Reitherman, not Wolfgang.
yeah. He's usually listed in the credits of Disney movies as like Wolfgang Wooly Reitherman.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then we've got Eric Larson and Les Clark.
Okay, those 2 sound vaguely familiar as well.
Yes.
And those are the 9 guys that we'll be talking about all the time for Disney for the next...
forever.
60 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not 60. 30 to 40.
Yeah. I mean, normal work hour or year.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to think, is like this came out around 39, most of them are done
37.
37. Most of them are done probably by the end of the 60s.
Well, no, more like mid-70s. A lot of them hung around after Walt died.
Okay. It's just like somewhere in that region.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess, do you have more to talk about, or should I ask you some questions now to spark more conversation pieces?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
How'd it do? How'd it do in the box office?
This movie was a huge success.
Just destroyed the box office.
I mean...
people, like, walked out of the theaters and walked immediately back in to watch it again type of phenomenon greatness.
I mean, I don't know if that was necessarily like a thing back then.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, this movie more than made up for its cost, which it had a very large cost.
You gotta remember, this was in the middle of the Great Depression.
Which caused Roy a lot of sleepless nights. Walt's poor brother Roy, in charge of finances.
You can't keep doing this. We're gonna go bankrupt. Don't worry, I'm just buying a $13 billion thing. It's fine, I'm patenting it. No, you can't.
Walt, stop! My heart. I can't. I gotta say, you listened to some of the biography.
Yes, I have. Oh, well, I'm so sorry for Walt. Or Roy.
And it's so much fun because we've been listening to it as an audiobook. And I've read it before, but it's been years, so I wanted to refresh on it while we were going through these movies. But just like all the crap Walt puts Roy through is so funny. It's the Walt Disney the invention of the American animation. No, I'm messing up a lot of the words here. Let's grab the book. What is it called?
The Triumph of the American Imagination.
Yes, so it's Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination by Neil Gabler. And it's a big, thick book, but if you're interested in Disney history, I definitely recommend it.
Like, really thick book.
Yeah. If you have a subscription on Audible, there's an audiobook for it that I've been listening to, and that's been great, too.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it split into, like, 7 parts or something?
It's split into 4 parts.
4 parts that are each, like, 4 hours long or something?
Well,
or
no,
longer?
like 8 hours long.
8 hours long. Yeah, so it's a really big book.
It's a big book.
But it is fascinating.
I often refer to it as my Disney Bible.
I mean, it is.
But anyway, yes, this movie was a huge success. And, unfortunately, something we'll be getting into later, this is often considered Walt's biggest, best movie. Which, I love this movie. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I think it's great. I think it was a very important film, and I think the Disney team did a phenomenal job. But, because this movie was so good, movies that we'll be watching pretty soon are considered not as good by comparison, and that is just bullshit. Because the films that came after Snow White, where Snow White is like, wow, that was amazing, these movies are like, holy shit, this is such a level of mastery that I am floored that people on this earth can be this talented.
I'm excited to rewatch these films now.
I mean, it's just bizarre to think about it like that, because nowadays, a lot of people look back on a lot of these early Disney films like, whatever, they're old Disney films.
They exist, whatever.
They exist, they were important, but, you know, they're kind of, they're old, so we don't care as much.
Damn racist crows.
How
scandalous.
But, you know, for as long as Disney was alive, he was constantly having to try to one-up himself on Snow White, because most of the critics and public at large just saw Snow White as just being perfect.
The best.
That he just couldn't replicate that magic ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is too bad. Because I think like, majority of Walt's work after this is, as far as the animated films go, we're not going to get into the live action stuff.
Okay.
But as far as, like, the animated stuff goes, like, most of it is as good, if not better, than Snow White.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, did you want to ask me something else?
I don't know. That was mainly all I had.
Okay.
It's like I knew that much about it. It's like I knew this movie made bank.
Yeah.
And I knew we hadn't talked about it yet, so I figured I was going to bring it up.
Yeah. But more importantly, at the Walt Disney Studio, we don't just have them to thank for Snow White being the first animated film. We also have to thank them for the invention of the storyboard.
Mm-hmm.
The way that for decades after, the way the whole animation production system worked, the way that supervising animators were cast as actors for their roles, which seems like such a, well, yeah, no duh thing, but you will be surprised how many people who work in animation don't understand this. The idea that you should cast animators as though you are casting them as actors for their roles.
Which is one big issue we'll run into when we start getting into these 3D films.
Yes.
Where it's just a group of people do random scenes with various characters in them. You can't just easily look at a character throughout the entire film and say, yes, I know exactly who it was that was animating them. It was this person who also did this character in that film. But no, it's more so, I had these 7 seconds of Rapunzel in this scene, and then the next thing I did was I worked on Maximus for that 12-second scene and his interaction with the little chameleon, whatever his name was.
Pascal.
Yeah. It's like, that's how animation works nowadays. Which works.
I think they've kind of started going back into the supervising animators for a character thing.
Have they? So it's like...
I think so.
So it's closer to, like, this team of people works on a character.
Yeah.
Okay, that is better. But I know there for a time, it was more so, you just get this section, you do it, because we know you can do animals or whatever.
Well, yeah, because 3D was such a new thing.
It's puppets.
And, oh my gosh, this is going way off tangent, but...
It's near the beginning of the thing. We need to talk about stuff.
Yeah. but when 3D was coming around, there was so much technicality to it, where it's like, okay, this person knows how to make this work with this rig, so we need to give it to this person.
Okay.
So, or like, this person just really knows how to make a funny scene work, so we'll give this to this person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how early 2D animation was, too, at first. But...
Starting with this movie.
Starting, not just with this movie, but with the shorts Walt was doing before this movie to prep for it, you were really starting to get this sense of the animators acting through these characters.
It's not just the voice actor, it's the person drawing the character too.
Yeah.
Which a lot of non-animation based people, and even some animation based people, don't get. It's like,
and this
there's
also...
more than one person portraying this character on screen right now.
Yeah.
It's not just this random one-hit wonder actor that's voice acting this person.
Well, and it's something, it just makes the tiniest of difference. But it's something that if you've watched a lot of these movies, you can just feel it. Like, you can feel an animator's progression. If they've stuck with a character, you can feel it go from scene to scene to scene. Whereas, if that isn't there, you can feel the disconnect. It's like this suddenly is not the same character that we saw in the last scene. And it's
even if they look
just
the exact same.
the tiniest thing. But you can feel it. And so,
just some little tiny bit of mannerism is a little off or something.
Yeah. Oh, we should talk about the music of Snow White. Because that's also a point of contention for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like this movie because of the music.
I can see that.
Yeah. I mean...
To be perfectly honest, it's not great. But it does exactly what it needs to do.
And see,
and it does it pretty well.
Walt purposely picked this sort of operatic, because he wanted the music to be more quaint and timeless feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, that's what would be, you know, a lot of Disney movies nowadays, or even as the company continued, we'll see later on, are more pop songy.
Yeah.
And Walt purposely avoided that because he wanted this film to be a classic that people would watch decades later.
Guess what? He succeeded.
Guess what? It worked! But in the same way he wanted that, it also kind of backfired on him, because nowadays we think of a lot of the old pop songy Disney classics to be more classic than Snow White.
I guess, what do you mean by, like, pop song classics?
Like Sherman Brothers stuff, when they come in and you have, like, Lady and the Tramp's music and Mary Poppins music.
Stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. It's like... it's not pop music in the traditional sense. Yeah. Even the next movie we're gonna watch, from Walt Disney, Pinocchio, the hi diddly dee. Oh yeah. That.
I mean, even if you don't somehow know the words to that, you know what that is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah. So it's just ironic that they picked music to be timeless, but it ended up getting
forgettable.
Which made it dated.
Yes.
And the pop songs that were just like very hip and catchy at the time, even like Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
It was very, you know, like catchy and popular at the time. But it ended up becoming more timeless.
It's strange.
Yep. So going back to more scenes in the movie, well, and I guess kind of back to our DVD bonus features here for a second.
Okay. Where are you going with this?
Okay, so I know I was making fun of my DVD Platinum Edition of this movie, but actually, if you can get your hands on it, I totally recommend it, just so that you can watch this movie with the audio commentary. And I'm gonna sound like a huge nerd here, but I do not care.
You are.
I mean, yeah, I've been nerding about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
You're the largest
like the last
Disney nerd I know.
hour and a half.
Other than the people that have gone on to eventually work for Disney.
They're like Disney historians.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Leonard Moulton. The fact that I even know his name. Such a nerd! Anyway.
Anyways, what are you talking about this audio commentary? Who's it done by?
The audio commentary is done by none other than Walt Disney.
Really?
Yes.
But how does that work? Because this movie came out way after that.
And I have a confession to make. I listen to this audio commentary, like, religiously, probably, like, once a year.
She's not lying.
Yeah, Sean's watched me listen to this audio commentary multiple times.
So what is there's one or two people that are talking.
Yeah, Leonard Moulton introduces it, and he's also
he fills in the blanks.
Yeah, he fills in the blanks in between Walt's talking. But what they did was they found old scraps of audio from back when Walt was doing The Wonderful World of Disney, from storyboard meetings.
Just anything that they could get their hands on where he was talking about this film.
Yeah, interviews, anything that he was talking about Snow White, and they edited it together to where he's talking about the film. And it's fascinating because you not only get parts of, like, you get to hear Walt talking about it when they were making the film, and then, you know, Leonard Moulton will talk and he'll give a little preface about the next part that's about to come up. And then, you know, you'll hear Walt talking about it
as though it came out 20 years ago.
20 years later. And he's talking about, you know, like, oh, well, we're making Mary Poppins right now, and, you know, and then he'll talk about, like, how they've been affected since Snow White and all that. And so it's just fascinating to see how the creator of this felt about this movie
Over such a span of time.
over his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so cool. And I know they've done this kind of thing for Bambi as well.
Ooh.
And maybe another movie. Although
Would it be like Pinocchio or possibly Dumbo?
No. Or at least I haven't seen those.
Fantasia.
If it's true. Oh,
Can you
Fantasia
even
would be amazing.
do an audio commentary on Fantasia?
Sure you can.
Be a very interesting audio commentary. 'Cause
I'm sure. Well,
it's not
this is another tangent. But I love audio commentaries.
What? Really?
And audio commentaries for these old Disney films are usually fun because a lot of times they'll bring some of the
Historians?
new Disney Renaissance animators in
Mm-hmm.
who just love the Nine Old Men and they love the history of Disney animation. So they've brought on guys like Eric Goldberg and Andreas Deja and Glenn Keane to talk about these older films. And like they're just so
Fanboy.
happy to be watching this movie. And they're like, oh my god, look what Milk Hall did here. I just can't even. And it just makes me so happy. But anyway. Another point I wanted to talk about is in order to prep for this movie, Walt was having the artists learn how to be artists.
Not just
animators, but artists. He was getting all of his artists traditionally trained.
Fine art degrees, essentially.
Yeah. And, yet again, is kind of a duh in the industry nowadays. But wasn't a thing back then. And, and that was a big point of contention on the Fleischer Studio side, is they were like, why are you doing this? That's dumb, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. We could make stuff as good as Disney if we just had the time and money that they did. But at the same time, they didn't believe in Walt's idea of making the artists better artists first. And it was another big point of contention for a lot of critics who liked the Fleischer brothers more and stuff like that Disney was trying too hard to be realistic. It's like, why bother making animation, something that you can do anything with, realistic? And
oh boy.
I know it's weird to think about nowadays.
Yeah.
And it is something that I do understand where critics come from.
Yeah.
With that point, because, you see that point talked about nowadays.
Yeah.
Even where
why
people are
do
like,
this animated when you could do this live action?
Or why,
do it at all if it's been done before?
Or why animate people when you could just put real actors up there?
Mm-hmm.
And Walt just recognized that in animation, you can make reality something better than it could ever possibly be in real life.
Mm-hmm.
In
you
animation,
have to have that semblance of reality to begin with.
Yeah, and Walt had almost all of his movies. Walt had the whole thing acted out on a soundstage first. And so if Walt didn't believe in animation, he would have just filmed the actors doing the soundstage production and then sent that to theaters. Because, these actors they would have elaborate sets, they would have costuming to match the characters that were going to be...
It's not like what you see nowadays where it's like, oh, I just kind of posed in front of the thing to get the pose right or anything. It's like, no, these people were in costume, they were fully acting everything.
Mm-hmm. And, but Walt recognized that that in animation you have more control over the acting. You can tighten up the acting. You can just make everything better and more appealing with animation.
Mm-hmm. Which is what got us into it.
Yeah.
It's like the same concept of things are more interesting with an animated character than they will ever be with real people. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, real people, you're just too boring for me.
You're not as good as the animation.
Which is why I don't watch that many live action films.
Yeah.
It is also the reason we're sitting here watching every single animated film ever.
Yep. But I mean, I'm glad that we get to do this film early, because I will say that this film sets the bar for pretty much everything that will come after this.
Yes. It's like,
And
you
anything
will
that
be
is
judged by Snow White.
Yep. And
Everything will be judged by Snow White from here on out.
and if you can't at least be as good as Snow White, then what are you even doing here?
What was the point? Mm-hmm. Or even if you're good, you're not Snow White good. Or you're a pile of garbage, please get out.
Yeah.
And shut the door on the way out.
But anyway, I can and probably have and could go on hours longer talking about Snow White.
I mean, probably, but I think we've most likely gone long enough on this already.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you could upload sometime in the future another, like, addendum episode or something, just talking about more of this.
Yeah.
But this seems like the appropriate amount to give people for this episode of Animation Pilgrimage.
I would just say, don't be surprised if sometime down the road
You go on another tangent.
I go on another tangent about Snow White, and, I've written multiple essays about how much I love Snow White.
Never
why
published
it's
them
so
or
good.
anything, just written them.
Yeah, just written them because, I'll be like, man, people don't appreciate Snow White the way I do. And so I'll, wake up late at night and start writing.
Like 12-page essays.
Yeah.
Super long form things here.
Oh, goodness.
All right, so
But anyway.
needless to say, this movie was fantastic and great, and if you haven't somehow seen it yet, I suggest doing so, because it is amazing and if nothing else, if you don't like it, it still establishes a lot of where animation has come from.
And if you're someone who, didn't really appreciate this film all that much, I hope that us talking about it maybe made you appreciate it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Snow White is going to be everyone's cup of tea, because it is old, and without knowing a lot of the history behind it, a lot of its storytelling techniques are kind of just old-fashioned. We don't tell fairy tales the same way we used to.
No, now we gotta subvert every fairy tale.
Now we have to subvert every fairy tale, and if we don't have at least 5 pop culture jokes, we aren't being edgy enough. Fuck me. I don't want to end this review on a negative note.
No, this movie's good. Go watch it.
This movie's good. Go watch it. It did so many things right. And next time, we will be looking at Gulliver's Travels from the Fleischer Brothers.
Oh, goody. So, I mean, obviously I don't know, but I'm just gonna make a guess here. They're like, hey, Disney did it. We can do that too.
I mean, I'll wait to go into the history of that next time.
Okay.
But thank you all for watching.
Meet us on the next episode of Animation Pilgrimage.
Woo! Yeah.
Sign off. Hey, here at the end of this episode, I just want to make a shout out to Neil's Patreon account, which I guess by extension is also kind of my Patreon account, but mostly hers. If you like what she does, and we do, you can go over there and you can become our patron and pledge to give us any amount of money each month. If you just want to give us $1, that's great. If you want to give us $5, that's even better. But
honestly, $1 is makes us very happy.
Oh yeah, $1 from 500 different people means we're getting $500 every month, and that means a lot. The more money we get this way, the more episodes like this you can get, the more everything you can get, and It really helps us do what we like to do. If you like our content, I would appreciate it if you could help support us in any way possible. Thank you, and see you next time.